Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the video. Today, we're going to be talking about social media. And I've been wondering whether or not social media has created these terrible traits in humanity, or whether or not it's simply exposed who we've always been and who we truly are. And I'm just talking about online. If you go on there, I find it so negative. Everyone's so angry. Everyone's so judgy. All I read and see are people's egos and ignorance because no one is listening to either side. We're just getting so, and I hate using this word because it almost feels cliche, but polarized. Worse and worse all the time. Like there's nothing wrong with having a difference of opinion, but it's like as soon as someone is on the other side, they're the enemy. We are like separating ourselves based on political alignment or religion instead of looking at each other and saying, hey, they're a good person, they're a compassionate person, they're a giving person, they're a selfless person. You know what I mean? Like those aren't important attributes anymore. As soon as we put that label on them, they could be Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi, but if they go, oh, but I'm Republican, or oh, I'm Democrat, the opposite side's immediately like, what an idiot, that person's blah 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 blah. We judge so fast on it, and I think it's tearing the fabric of society, to be honest with you. So we're going to get into that. And before we do, however, and just to make sure we're all on the same page, and especially if you're new here and you don't know what I do, I want to make sure that you understand that this isn't about me pushing my opinion on you. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm not trying to prove and use my energy to prove myself right. I'm putting my energy into understanding the issue, the topic better. And the way that this is going to work is in the first half of this video, I'm going to express my opinions of the topic just the way it is. Again, I'm not pushing them on you. I don't need you to agree. Whether you disagree or agree is irrelevant. But I'm going to explain why I feel the way that I do. And then I'm going to pause, and whether it takes me an hour, a few hours, a few days, sometimes even, I use AI to help me research and to look into alternate perspectives, things that directly conflict with my personal opinions and the way that I see the world. And it's not to get me to change. It's not so that I sit on the fence, because I don't believe in that. I don't think that you should sit on the fence. I'm just talking about a broader view. The more information we have, the better it is that we're able to make a proper decision. If we're not given all the information, if we don't seek the information and we make a decision, it could be a terrible decision. But the more information we have, the broader our view, the easier it is for you to see what might be the truthful or the more balanced or the more compassionate answer. And that's what I seek to do on here. I know that my information, my opinions and everything are likely biased and incomplete. So that's what we do here. So let's get into it. I actually recorded this yesterday, but there was an additional thing that I contemplated before I started researching it. I was like, that actually might be an important part. So I'm re-recording this. I'll try and remember all the talking points, and I'll try and keep this as short as possible. And by the way, I watched my intro video, and man, I digressed all over the place. That video was way too long. It was way too long and it rambled on. And I probably am going to do the same thing here. If I do, tell me to reel it in. If there's parts where I'm rambling on and everything, like, oh, you kind of rambled on here or you went off on a path here, like I'm doing right now, but I'm giving you this sort of preamble. Feel free to let me know. I want to improve the video. So if there's something that's like, I didn't really like that part, just to adjust there a little in real time. If you didn't like that part or something about it, then let me know. I know the background's distracting, it's not very professional, but I haven't done this in years, and I don't want to invest in anything unless I know this is going somewhere and people actually like conversing with me. Because that's how I feel like this is. I feel like I'm looking for people that are open-minded, that are compassionate. I'm not looking for you to agree. You could disagree with everything that I say the entire time. I don't really care. I just want to have a conversation, and I want to understand your perspective or other people's perspective so that I have a better understanding of topics and hone my opinions to something that's more, I don't know, more accurate. So anyway, social media. I'm just going to come out the gate and say that I do not believe right now that social media is responsible for creating these undesirable traits, this amount of anger, this judginess, this selfishness, this racist rhetoric, and just how terrible people, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You may watch puppy dog things most of the time, or like I stay with it, but once in a while, when you make the mistake and you watch some political thing or something where it's a hot topic, a trendy topic, the comment section is disgusting. It's disgusting how we treat each other. It's disgusting because it just drips in its stench of egos, people's egos and ignorance, and no one's willing to understand each other. They're just there to push their opinions to show how right they are, how smart they are, and it's such a toxic environment. This is really what made me want to do these videos. I'm like, I don't want to contribute to that. So social media, I don't think was responsible for these traits. I think they've always been there. But predating social media, predating the internet, from my majority of my life, anyone at my age, which is 50 or older, and you're like, 50, y'all so old. But anyone 50 or older, majority of your life was spent in real-time interactions. Our social interactions were either in real time or on the phone. And the only time you were on the phone with someone was with family, friends, or someone who you had to pay a bill or something like that. You know, you generally didn't stay on the phone. So your interactions had to be in real life. And even with strangers in particular, if you bumped into them in the shopping centers or wherever it is that you were at, the park or amusement parks, people behave differently because there's real-time repercussions. If half the people that talk online and social media, the terrible things that they said that to people in real life, you might be spitting your teeth out. It would not react, they would not react very well. And so people tend to hold those thoughts back. Here comes social media, here comes the internet, where people can be anonymous, and little Johnny Pee-Pee Pants in his Spider-Man pajama pants in his bottom of his mom's house is him like, yeah, and blah, 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 and he's going on and on. I'm like, who's this kid? What's going on? And why are you so angry? Like, what happened? Is your childhood terrible? Like, what is going on here? But I think it's just a normal part. I'm not judging on it. I don't think, like, I know it's bad, but if it is an inherent part of humanity, if those attributes there, I can't say that it's bad or good. The same way that if I look at a lion joining a lion outside of a pride, so there's already a pride, they got the cubs and everything like that, and here comes the challenger, and they fight to the death. If that challenger comes in and beats the other male, he basically kills all of the cubs because they're not his offspring, and he wants to ensure his line. And as gruesome and as violent as that is, we don't go, he's a terrible lion. We're like, he's a lion. That's his instincts. That's part of who he is. That's what they do. So we don't put the same judgment on them. But we look at ourselves as humans as being these higher organisms that we, don't behave that way. But I'm saying, what if we do? What if that's part of it? So I don't want to be judgy in that regard and say, oh, you're terrible. I'm like, well, what if it's just the way that we are? And if we're aware of that, and if we're empathetic to that and compassionate for that, that humans tend to get lost in anger, because anger is a terrible thing. When you get angry, it's not just an emotion. You're just like, oh, I'm angry. You feel it. You feel it manifesting physically. Your temperature goes up. It's like a poison. And then you generally, when you're raging, you don't think straightly. You don't make rash decisions. So I think we have to be more aware that this is what it causes. And being aware that people are like this, you can change the way that you interact with people. That's, at least that's the way I look at it. So anyway, that was actually part of the why I wanted to re-record this as well. My first experience with social media basically was in 2007, 2008. And it was online with Call of Duty 4. And I'm a gamer. I'm still a gamer. I've been doing it for 16 years on YouTube. It's how I pay my bills. This is definitely not the way that I pay my bills. You know what I mean? So up to that point, all my interactions in my life were in real time. My friends and everything like that, going to parties, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, cool. I get to go online. I get to do something that I've been doing since 1982, 1983. I've been video gamer for the vast majority of my life. I'm like, this is awesome. I was so addicted to it as well. It was terrible. But I went online. What I noticed immediately in the lobbies, wow, people are mean. Some of them are funny, but they're just like, there's no filter. They were just racist, mean. They would be insulting. Like, oh my God, like, are people actually like this? Because, like, I know people were mean. I knew there were bad people in the world, but it was like every single lobby and the vast majority of people. And I'm like, this is not good. So this is like major social media, pre YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, whatever that is. I don't know when Facebook came out, but maybe it was there. I don't know how big it was in 2007 or 2008, but It's gotten worse, and here's the problem. So I don't think that social media, the current format, has necessarily created these undesirable traits in humanity, but I do believe that it's made it worse, and I'm going to explain that as well. So what you have to understand with all of them is they're controlled by algorithms. Algorithms are just a set of codes or instructions that tell the system, the AI, because it is AI, it tells them what to show you next. So when you're scrolling in your, say, YouTube Shorts, as you're scrolling there, the system, based on your activity, how long you watch things, what you watch, whether you skip by things, it is all being fed into the system to keep you watching as long as possible. If you flick by something because you don't like it, whatever the reason for it, the system remembers immediately and in real time will try and not ever show you those things again. They're like, oh, they don't like them. Because its only goal is to keep you watching as long as possible. That's why when you go on, you're like, oh, I'm just gonna get caught up on my Instagram reels. I'm just gonna watch a couple of shorts. And it's like 1 to 2 hours later, you're like, oh my God, I just like wasted all this time. Maybe you laughed a little bit, maybe you're entertained, maybe you got a little annoyed once in a while. But it is so well designed that it keeps us engaged. Everywhere I go, I see everyone constantly on their phones, in their cars, which is a huge problem. If you do that, you're a big douchebag. I'm just saying, incredibly selfish, incredibly dangerous. Get off your phone. I see it all the time. And I don't care if I sound like an old person. You are behind. This is where I'm digressing a little bit. I know. I'm already seeing myself going there. I'm just saying, don't do it. Scolding. You're like, you're not my dad. I'll do whatever I want. But anyway, so its goal is only to keep you engaged. And it's the reason for it, its primary function in its existence is to keep you engaged so it can show you more ads. It is a capitalist driven machine. As good as it is, as good as what social media can do for humanity, because I do believe it can contribute in a way that's amazing, potentially amazing. But what it's doing right now, because its primary function and core purpose is to simply feed you ads to drive profits because of capitalism, it doesn't care about giving you a balanced opinion. It doesn't care about the nuances of any issue. All it cares about is feeding you stuff that you like watching. So here's a scenario for you. I'm going to give you a quick analogy because I love analogies. They're great. They're like, oh, now I understand. So if you were let's say you didn't like Trump. Okay, you didn't like Trump. You were new to YouTube, and you decided to go on there, and you caught a couple of Biden. Let's go back before Trump was even elected, so we don't get into hot water. People are like, let's talk about Trump. No, let's not. Let's not do that right now. Maybe later, not right now. So anyway, you see a Biden video, Kamala, and you're like, oh yeah, they're standing up, and I like what they're doing, and I like what they're saying, blah 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 blah. And they're like, the system's like, oh, they like politics. Let's feed them more politics. And then they throw in a Trump rally where Trump is bashing everyone and everyone's laughing. They're like, yeah, Trump's a funny guy. And you're like, Trump's a jerk. And you flick by it really fast because you don't want to see it. You don't want to hear Trump. You don't want to hear all the amazing things that he's doing or allegedly doing. And I'm saying that whether he's doing it or not. But in your head, you're like, whatever. You're going to skip it. Immediately, that algorithm's like, oh, they like politics. They don't like Trump and probably don't like Republican stuff. So they immediately cut that out. And what happens is, as we're going, and the same thing happens on the other side. And any issue, anything that you watch on YouTube, this is exactly what happens every single time, which is why we're being so ultra polarized in society, why people are arguing more and more. These systems that we're glued to don't care about giving you a balanced view. They don't care about misinformation. They're not there to prove you right or prove you wrong. They just want to keep you glued. And the way they do that is just by feeding you information that supports your current way that you think, the current way that you see. It's not giving you a broader view. You're not getting more intelligent. You're actually becoming more ignorant. And I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to, ignorance is not stupid. I'm not saying you're stupid. I'm saying you're missing a whole bunch of information, just like I am, which is the whole purpose of this video. Is I acknowledge that I am. I know it. I still have the same opinions. I still have that knee-jerk reaction. I'm like, yeah, this person this. And I'm like, maybe they are, but whatever. And I look it up and I'm like, oh, they actually did some good and maybe I was an idiot. I still don't like them. I still don't like them because of this, this, and this. But okay, they did some good. So, and then I can calm down my judginess. But the system doesn't care. So the point is that the longer you're on social media, the more that you use it, the more polarized your views are. Because if all you're getting is over and over and over again, all this information, videos, and everything like that, that is reaffirming what you think you already know, or reaffirming your position, your opinions, and your ideologies. It just strengthens them. And then you defend them. You're like, oh, of course it is. I've seen so much, and you never see anything that contradicts it. So of course you just hunker down. That's reality. That's truth. You're never going to get the balance. I don't know what the situation is or the solution is to it, but it's certainly not a capitalist driven. My problem is I don't think, because of the way humans are, because of our egos, that we actively seek balance, that we actively seek. So like what I'm doing here, I don't think is generally a normal thing to do. It's sometimes very uncomfortable. It hurts even my ego, even though my ego is like open to it and fractured, as I've mentioned before in the other video. It's still a hard pill to swallow at times. It's like, no, actually this, and this. And I'm like, oh my God. It makes me feel dumb. It makes me feel ignorant. It's an uncomfortable feeling. But at the end of the day, once I'm doing that, I'm like, oh, maybe now I have a more balanced view. Maybe now I have a more balanced opinion. And so I feel better about that. I didn't feel good about it showing me my faults. But afterward, once the dust settled, I'm like, oh, I feel more secure. I feel like I can talk to people. I can see your viewpoint. I can see yours. I still don't agree with that side or this or whatever, but I understand where you're coming from. And it makes me feel more empathetic to people and less, wanting to see you as my enemy. And that's all I want to do here. I want to find other people that are open-minded and compassionate. So I don't know what the solution is. I don't know what it is. I love social media. I love the ability for humans around this world to connect with one another. So I do see it as a positive. I just think because of its primary purpose right now, all the major ones, that it's staining, it's hurting humanity as much as it's helping us. It's helping us come together and be able to talk to one another rather than be subjected to government propaganda or major news media outlets that want to sell you a certain story. We can all fact check them. We can, if someone's talking about crap about another country, those people in another country on social media can immediately come back and go, no, that's not happening. Your news is saying that, but they're talking about this, and this is the reality. And so we don't have to rely on that. We can fact check people, the public, us, we connect and we help each other. But the problem is we're also being separated by it. We're also becoming enemies because of it. And I think it's a huge problem. Anyway, that's my opinion. I'm going to now take a break. I'm going to look into this. And if you have any opinions, even up to this point, share them in the comments. Be respectful. Don't attack others for having a difference of opinion. This is all meant for us to understand each other. Some of you are going to be very, very sort of solid in your opinions. Calm your egos. Just relax your ego a little bit and be open to the idea that you might be wrong. I'm not saying that you are wrong. I'm just saying open yourself up to the possibility that maybe you need a little bit more information. I know I certainly do. And that's what I'm about to jump in. We're going to come back. I'm going to tell you what I found and whether or not it's impacted my opinion. And we're back. So it's actually been a couple of days. It didn't take me a couple of days to look into this, although I probably could have spent 2 days. I planned on researching and looking into it the same day that I recorded the first half of this video, but I forgot that I had this tickets to a comedy event with my wife the same day, which was with Steve-O, the dude from Jackass, the movies, those things. Anyway, it was one of those events, so I had to wait for the next day. And then I also wanted to reflect on it because I don't want to just read it. Sometimes it takes me a while to mull it over and I'm like, oh, okay. And it's exactly actually what happened here. So I've got sheets here because I don't want to I want to do what other YouTubers do, which is like this. And this is what I found. And all of a sudden they show an image in front. And then so all they're doing is reading off a script while they're looking at it in the background. And I'd rather do this in real time and not use those trickeries. Although I know it look better for you and probably more entertaining. But so I copied them down and basically exactly what I said. I plugged them in there. I have a whole bunch of questions and I looked into it. And until I was satisfied with the response, until I felt like, okay, I could have done it for hours. This could be super, super long, but we got to end it somewhere. As long as I'm making headway, I'm fine. And just so you know, the entire conversation is screen capped at the end of this video. So for those of you that want to read exactly what I asked the AI, exactly what the AI said back and so forth, like the exact wording, you can see that in the end. And I'll do like 2 seconds per, there's like 13 pages or whatever. So, but if you want to see the conversation, you can see it there and just pause the screen and read it. And don't judge my grammar. Listen, I'm a math guy, not a English and literature major. All right, so basically, just to recap, although you guys have just seen it, for my own, you know, memory, because I'm old. Look at me. So my core position in the beginning was basically online behavior reflects true nature. So my position was the way that people are online is actually more indicative of who they truly are, not necessarily how we behave in real life. And so it was really just showing that. It was allowing us to be who we actually are, the good, the bad, the ugly. And the other aspect that I brought in and I mentioned is algorithms amplify behavior, not balance it. And I still hold true to that, and I'll explain even after all this. And the last one is human behavior is natural, not inherently good or bad. That's when I was doing the analogy of the line and everything, which, by the way, I had to, and I'm about to get into this, I had to provide further context for the AI because it misunderstood what I said, which means that some people out there watching this, and maybe even you, also misunderstood. And so that's my bad for the analogy, but I'll clarify it. Hopefully, if some of you thought the same way that the AI did, which is completely possible, I can at least give some clarification to that. So after plugging that all in, and I'm like, basically I asked them directly, like, give me alternate perspectives or positions that directly contrast or contradict the way that I thought. So in terms of the social media, and this was a big thing. This was the aspect or the part of it that I actually resonated and changed my position on it, changed my view on it a little bit. I'm not saying it drastically like a light burst from the from the clouds, and it's like, I see the truth. But it was a step in the right direction, a step in where I wanted to go, which is more understanding, more compassion, and allowed me to sort of reduce the amount of judginess that I do on other people when I see it. So basically, for social media can shape behavior, not just reveal it. So my position was that it reflects who we truly are. But what they said is it's called the Proteus Effect. It's a theory from 2007, which I also asked for the date. I'm like, well, when was this? Because is it relevant still? But I was questioning it again because of my ego, but then I eventually was able to accept it. And it basically suggests digital identities can influence how people behave. Some non-aggressive in real life. I keep looking over there and I apologize. It's a big pet peeve of mine. And every time I'm doing it, I'm like, you're an idiot. Stop doing that. Non-aggressive in real life may act differently online due to being anonymous or the avatar influence or group norms. Another contradiction to my position is it's not just about being free to be real online. Environments can actively alter behavior even against someone's typical nature. And this one took me a little bit of time to reflect on, not like a Superman, like, oh, I just don't get it. But I was like, well, I don't know, man. I don't know if I completely agree with it. But as I was asking more questions and it was talking about it, a light bulb came off with respect to that. And I'll get into that as well. Exposure to opposing views might be misleading. So some studies, there's an Oxford study, I guess, 2017, 2021, suggested users actually see more diverse opinions online and aren't really just shuffled into one area. They found that people in real life were less exposed to alternate perspectives in terms of politics and actually got more perspectives online. And so I actually challenged this one. And I do believe if you read the conversation with it, that the AI eventually was like, oh, no, you might be right. I'm not saying that it said I was right, but they're like, oh, that's a valid and fair point. In that, while that's probably true in general, like maybe even early on, like say the early stages of social media, that we technically are exposed to more alternate opinions than we would in real life, just haphazardly coming across them, reading them, or other people talking and mentioning where we wouldn't normally engage with that, because generally our circle of friends or a family hold generally the same sort of viewpoints. So you're not really getting that contrasting, but online, you're likely to see comments or other things. But my argument was, okay, that's fine based on your study, but that doesn't reflect the current nature and the current algorithms of today's social media, in that while what it's showing to people is is like emotionally charged. It's not, it may be showing alternate opinions. It may very well, you may very well be getting alternate opinions, but the way that it's showing it, in the context that it's showing it, is emotionally charged. It's meant to, so you're going to see that alternate opinion, but it's done in such a way that you immediately dismiss it. It looks crazy. That's why they always show the extremes either side, right? So although it's showing those opinions, it's doing it in such a way that you're not going to accept it. You're not going to digest it. It's going to be immediately discarded. And it's, again, like I said, is going to compound and reinforce your current ideologies and opinions. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying it doesn't help you get a broader view. So that was interesting. That was one that I was like, I don't really accept that. And I still feel like, while what they're saying is valid, obviously based on their studies, the way that the algorithms work nowadays is, even if you're getting that alternate opinion, it's in such a bastardized version that you're not actually learning anything. It's not to broaden your horizon. It just reinforces your current views. Opposing views are often poorly represented. Oh yeah, so that's exactly what I was saying. So the issue, the last thing that I want to go across here, and the context. So, when I was talking about the lion and everything like that. So originally the this is the AI's response. Originally, they were like, however, I challenge your more deterministic view of human nature as just being that way. It feels too resigned, like there's no hope for progress or betterment. While our base instincts might include selfishness and aggression, we've built cultures, philosophies, and systems specifically to transcend them. And many people do, especially in environments that nurture empathy and connection. So, is social media revealing who we really are? Yes, but it's revealing who we are when unchecked, unchallenged, and unaccountable. It's not all we are. And I'm like, oh, whoa. That's not what I meant by the lion thing. I wasn't saying, I wasn't condoning it. I'm not saying, oh, well, humans behave this way, so whatever, let's just accept it. No, that's not the purpose. So I followed up with the AI because I needed to provide context, and this is where I'm going to provide. So if any of you sort of felt the same way, I'm going to provide you with context in that regard as well. So this was, I believe, my direct response to it. In terms of your points on, quote, natural state versus moral evolution, I did not convey my thoughts on this accurately. While I do feel that the behaviors exhibited online by humans are natural, I am not necessarily condoning them. So that's not what I meant. I was just trying to get through as quickly as possible my points. And I guess, not making this an hour long. So anyway, condoning them, where is that? I believe that being angry and judgmental is just as natural as being kind and happy. I actually mention this because of my pre-existing philosophical and spiritual beliefs founded in Buddhism. I'm not a Buddhist. I'm not a practicing Buddhist. I can go into why I read and why I've read a lot of them. It's to do more with personal growth back when I was younger, and more psychological than anything, not religious, which promotes compassion and understanding to eliminate ignorance and hatred. My intention with the relevant statement and analogy was not to condone bad behaviors, but rather accept them as being natural and approach people with more compassion. So from what I've learned over years, and of course studying that and other psychology related to those philosophies, is that you can't have a conversation, you can't connect with people if you don't understand why they're coming up with opinions. So if I'm going into, say, videos or comments and I'm reading people just absolutely unleashing hell and being like that, if I understand why they're behaving that way, not saying that it's okay, not condoning, but I can understand how they're getting there, I can calm myself. I get less judgy, I get less angry. And so my responses are more compassionate, they're more calm, and that energy hopefully transfers over. And then we can have a conversation rather than an argument. Does that make sense? So the AI response was basically at the end, and it was like, okay, so they're like, oh, okay, thank you. And you should read the way that the AI responds. They try to emulate human speech a lot. They're getting very good at it, but you're not condoning bad behavior. You're asking, what if the first step to healing the cruelty we see online is to stop pretending it's an anomaly and start accepting it as part of us, and then working to rise above it together? And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what I was getting at there. So I apologize if I didn't provide enough context. I don't need that anymore there. The thing that has changed my viewpoint. So I still feel like it's a reflection of these emotions and traits of humanity, which aren't always good. And again, I don't condone them. I accept them as truths. What I did see is that while I thought, okay, no, this is a reflection of who we actually are, and that's why we behave that way online, that these behaviors that people exhibit online aren't necessarily things that are normal parts of them. And the way I look at that is it's through tribalism, and I talk about that. I mention tribalism a lot because it's a big part of stuff that I've researched in the past, so it sticks in my head. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. We can go into the tribalism if you want more in depth at some other time. But more or less, if you're on one team, right, you tend to want to support what the majority are doing so that you don't go against the grain, so you feel belonged and they accept you. So when you join a group, when you join a side, when you join a particular viewpoint on an issue, and you see all of those people acting in a certain way to the opposite side, there's this tendency for humans to want to belong to that group, to have safety in it. That's what tribalism, back in hunter-gatherer days. If you were by yourself, your likelihood of survival is very low. If you were with a group of hunters and gatherers, you'd have people that protect you, people that hunt, people that gather. You had safety in numbers. And so that almost unconsciously, that's what we do even now. That's why sports teams and political parties, we see that we belong to this team. And so the desire to belong, when we see when people, and this isn't necessarily you, and maybe sometimes you do, and maybe you do it without even acknowledging it. It could be a subconscious thing. I'd have to look into that because I didn't. I'm just guessing because it seems logical. But when you see, and this is what the AI was saying as well, this mimicry, they call it mimicry. So you see other people behaving that way and you're like, oh, well, I want to belong. So yeah, they're justified in that. I'm going to behave that way too, even if you don't. But to belong, that's what you do. Think of it as in real life. If you're in school, if you're younger, maybe even I believe adults probably do this as well. I think it would be ignorant for me to say it doesn't, but peer pressure. You're with a group of friends, and maybe while you don't normally do bad things or say naughty things or practical or be mean to other people, because you're part of this group, because you've been accepted part of this group and you want to stay part of this group, the popular crowd, that's peer pressure. They may not be even putting peer pressure on you, but the peer pressure exists because you want to belong to that group. You don't want to do things that push you outside to go against the grain of that group. So you tend to act in similar behaviors. And that's what the AI was saying. And I'm like, okay, I can accept that. So basically what this has taught me is while those emotions and everything are a natural part of us, they may be falsely presented against the actual people and the people that are doing it. Not everyone. Maybe some people are douchebags. Listen, I'm not saying everyone's good. Someone's got to be leading the charge, put it that way. Those people probably suck. But everyone else, you're like, oh, well, I'm on this side, and people get caught up in it. They want to make excuses and they're like, oh, well, it's fine. Like, I'm not the only one doing it. And so they behave in that manner to belong. And in doing so, if I see that, and if you see that, if you see people reacting strongly, it's not hard to see that other people, a lot of people on that side are reacting the exact same way, and vice versa. You're behaving likely the same way that everyone else is behaving, but you're okay with it because that's your team, you're on that side. But when you look at the opposite side, when you see them yelling at you and doing all this, just don't get so judgmental on it. If you can, I know it's a hard thing to do, but because I'm going to be doing the same thing, is don't initially react. Don't look at them as if they're idiots. They could be, if anything, I hate saying this because it's almost condescending, but have some compassion for them as being normal humans and weak to peer pressure, weak to tribalism, this instinct to belong. And they're just really wanting to belong, so they're regurgitating. I'm not saying condoning it. I'm not saying it's okay that they're doing it, but at least okay, I know why they're doing it. And don't react as harshly. They're like, well, it's unfortunate that you think that way. The whole point of everything that I'm doing here is I don't want to add gas to the fire. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I don't want to make the situation worse. I want to understand the situation better, and I want to try and bridge gaps. All of you here, I'm not concerned about all of internet. I don't think that generally the masses would ever accept this line of mentality. And maybe some of you don't accept it either, and that's perfectly fine. If you don't agree with it, and if it's going against your instincts and you're not enjoying it because I'm too, I don't know, like maybe you consider me sitting on the fence or something like that, I'm not going to be hurt. Okay, I'm not going to be hurt if you don't want to continue watching the videos. It's completely fine. But this is the nature of what I do here, and this is what I want to do. In terms of hot topics, so I'm going to end that. Again, end of the video, screenshots, you can read the entire conversation. It goes into, like, again, there's like, I don't know, 13 or 14 pages. It's not like super long. It's a fairly easy read, but I just summarized it for you. When I asked about these questions, this is more of a philosophical debate. It's nothing pressing. It's nothing high. It's like, this was on my mind all week. You know what I mean? Like, that's not it. I know. And then some of you were like, I'm like, well, what do you want? Like, what do you want me to talk about? We were like, talk about the tariffs, talk about DEI. I'm like, ooh, so you want to talk about the spicy topics. You want to talk about the hot topics, the trendy ones, the ones that are tearing the fabric of society apart, the ones that are really polarizing. And I agree, and I do want to actually talk about those. But I want to get this format down first. And in all honesty, I'm going to be forthright in coming. I actually have a topic that I want to talk about. Like, I just read it this morning before I did this. I was like, oh, could I talk about this? How do I frame it so I don't get in trouble? And the reason why I say get in trouble is I have a trip planned to the United States to visit my business partner and good friend, Chris, in Arizona, which I normally have done every year, but due to health, a herniated disc, oh man, I haven't been going down there. But we have a lot of travel warnings right now in the world, if you're not aware of this, because sometimes, no offense, but if you're American, you're just like, I don't care what's going on around the world. Even Chris, like, I told him, I'm like, dude, like, I gotta be careful. He's like, what are you talking about? Because he's not very political. He doesn't look into that. He doesn't really care about that stuff. And when we get together, we don't generally talk politics either, because it doesn't matter to us. But anyway, there are more travel restrictions and warnings outside of the United States for countries to travel to the US more, and it hasn't seen these levels of restrictions since the Cold War with Russia, because of the political uncertainty and what's happening in your country. I know maybe you're not aware of this because why would you be, right? Like, you're not outside of the US. If you're an American citizen, why would you be aware of travel restrictions? But I have one here in Canada too. And the warnings are that if you've said anything on social media that goes against what the Republican Party or Trump administration is currently saying, you could be detained, you could be held, and you could be immediately kicked out of the country. And I thought, well, that's ridiculous. So I can't do videos and talk to you guys on topics that I think we should be talking about, because I may be barred from your country. And I thought, okay, well, in all honesty, I'm dancing around the fact that I'm not going to discuss them. We'll have to hit more philosophical sort of ideas until I made that trip. And after that, I'm just going to express myself. I'm sorry, and I don't mean to sound ignorant. I am not going to allow the current government to oppress my thoughts. And it's not that I'm looking, I try to be as balanced as possible. And you'll see this as hopefully see this as we go forward. I'm not there to attack Trump or Republican or Democrat or any of the leaders, but I'd like to be able to discuss these things openly and freely with you. And I feel like at this particular moment I can't. So anyway, I'm just giving you a forewarning, but there is a topic that I want to talk about, and I have to reflect on it before I get into it, because I don't want to get into trouble. I don't want to be retained or detained, and I'd like to continue to be able to visit the United States and see my friends. So anyway, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you got any other topics, even if they are hot and trendy, because maybe I can be balanced and just talk about things in general rather than being a peer or appearing to directly conflict with your current government, which I don't have intentions. I just like to talk about things. Put them in the comments below. If you disagree, or if you have other information, or shed light on the issue that we were just talking about, by all means put it in the comments. And if you read something that you disagree with, don't be a dick. Don't that's the whole thing is about being open. And don't bring your ego to this game. Comment, because I've already seen a couple of comments that I've had to deal with, and I dealt with them as rationally as possible. But I'm not here to talk with your ego. I'm here to have an open discussion. And if you can't do that, then I'm not going to have a discussion with you. That's just the way it is. I don't want to waste my energy on people that are not open-minded. Anyway, that's it. If you want to read the conversation, it's going to be at the end. I hope to see you in the next video.